Hello, everybody. We're back to another show, another Insta show from the Zach World of Facades with a facade consultant today. And we're waiting for him to come online. And as he comes online, we'll soon talk to him right now. I think he's online. And we're going to take him now and let him come online. And I think he's just about to come online because it says connecting to TP Architects. I think the man is here now himself. Hi, Matheiu.
Hi, hi.
So
How
before
are
I
you?
go into a formal introduction about you to everybody, I must say hi to you first. You must say hi to me, which we've exchanged. And
How
this
are
is
you?
a totally new series by the Zach World of Facades.
Yes, how are you doing, Navin? All
Great.
good
God
this
is kind. God is very kind. Okay. Let's start
Sure.
away straight away, and we need to talk a lot. We've only 1 hour with you. 1 hour is too little to talk to a man like you. And where I begin with and how I'd like to introduce this whole subject of facade consultancy. We've been talking to architects, facade consultants, and it's a new series that has been conceived and is brought to life right now. One of the reasons of getting you right in the beginning is because you'll know slowly and gradually why we're introducing different architects and facade consultants. I personally believe that, facades are surface patterns. They are indefinable shapes with visual contrast in the complexity and the thinking of the architect, the developer, the fabricator, who is the creator of the facade, in the mind of the facade consultant. So your mind is a complex mind with everybody's footprint put somewhere stamped. And having said that, to all the viewers, to all the ladies, all the gentlemen, all the fabricators, all the facade consultants, architects, structural engineers, to the ZAC group of companies, we herewith introduce to you the one and only Matheiu, a good friend who brings complexity of the facade into simplicity from the dominant elements of the architect's design. And this I can say because I've met you in your office.
Yes, indeed we have, yes.
So I say we begin from there. And just to give you a brief idea of how we work, we talk about 5, 7, 10 minutes about your life and where you reached and how you got and became, how you became a facade consultant. Then we go
Sure.
into a little touchy questions of design and philosophy and what you feel about facades. Then a quick round of your little personal questions, which I think is the most tricky questions at the end of the day. Okay?
Oh, I'm
So
speaking
let
like
me
a lead.
shoot out with you straight away. And can you tell us something about your life for a start?
Uh, where to start? At the beginning, I guess I'm originally from Mauritius. I was raised there, and but now I'm actually in Singapore for over 20 years, and so. Having seen and grown up in a very simple rural area of Africa, and then now living in the bustling metropolis of Singapore, I think you have to be able to wrap your head around simple things and complex things.
Now, when we talk about Mauritius, you have to tell everybody about, how you had a French mother and how you went to France and the stories of your life and your swimming and the paradise city you came from, and our
Sure.
Bollywood comes from there. So please go ahead,
Yes.
my friend.
Yeah, Mauritius, it's what can I say? It's a paradise island. It's beautiful. I think most people dream about it, or at least know something about it. Have seen it in Bollywood movies, as you say. People dancing on the beach, happy to live. Um, and I grew up in that place, and indeed it is that place. It is that kind of paradise. It is incredibly beautiful people as well. And I'm not saying that because I'm one of them. But plenty of good friends, plenty of good family members there. Living by the beach, simple life, no TV, no internet, no nothing. Just the sea, the nature, the hills in the countryside, and enjoying the simpler things of life. The simpler aspects of life.
And how does a man like that, who comes from a simplistic life, who comes from paradise, who is a swimmer, we come back to your swimming skills a little later, without
Yeah,
any formal education in facade, no formalized education. And I think you, if I know right, you wanted to become a diver and you're a scuba diver. Can you tell us more about that before we get to facades?
true, true. I mean, I'm a very passionate diver. I spend a lot of time, as much of my free time as I can get, diving. I'm very fortunate to be living that passion as well, in addition to my passion for facades. I've been traveling all over the world. I've gone to dozens of countries. I've dived on 6 different continents.
Oh,
And yes,
lovely.
and that is 6. That includes Antarctica. Diving with wonderful friends, wonderful underwater inhabitants, really discovering a lot of unbelievable places, unbelievable animals, unbelievable people. It's been really fantastic from that point of view as well.
So are you an instructor too? Are you a scuba diver instructor too?
I live, I'm a very passionate person. When I do something, I tend to push it as hard as I can. And it's not like it's a competition, with facades, it's not a competition. Diving.
No. I correct you. Facades are no competition. If you're passionate, you're in facades. If no, you're not in facades.
I'm passionate about something, I just want to be the best I can in it.
Yeah.
The best I can. I didn't say the best, but the best I can.
Right.
And so I'm a diver. I love underwater photography. I was the first to write a course for digital photography techniques back in 2001. Right. Look at that, almost 20 years ago. Yeah. I wrote 5 books on underwater photography. It doesn't feed me enough, unfortunately, so I've got to go on doing facades for a while. But it's a great passion of mine. It's something I miss a lot now that we're all confined at home during this very strange period.
Very strange period. A period we want to forget forever.
Yes.
Tell me another story. Tell me another story, which is very important for all of us, and it's very important for me. When you're so dedicated and you come from a swimming background, let's put it swimming in inverted commas, from paradise land, and I said it before, you have no education in facade, no formalized education. Then did you go to study engineering, or are you here by accident?
Yeah, so I
become even the managing director of a big facade company, which we'll talk a little later.
Yeah, possibly the biggest. I don't know, but yes, there is no real, or there aren't that many avenues if you want to learn about facades. What I did was I got a degree in engineering, a master's degree in engineering from one of the top universities in Europe. That was in France, and I ended up looking at a variety of topics. This was a 6-year course, very long, very arduous, very difficult path to follow. And when I graduated, I moved straight into Singapore, and this was a place I'd been to on holidays before many times. So I knew it, I enjoyed it. And I thought, this is where I want to start my career, at least. I'm not sure about forever, but that was my mindset at the time. And it was tough, because it was the late 90s. It was the Asian financial crisis. And it was really difficult for anyone to find a job in Asia at that time, in Southeast Asia, certainly. Economies were crashing, nobody was recruiting. So I thought, look, I'm a dive instructor. I might as well teach diving to earn a living and get some food in my mouth, in my stomach. And tried a few, didn't really like them. And one day on the way home, I took a shortcut, and I saw this guy hanging a sign, Sorrento Dive Center. I walked in and they said, "Welcome, you're our first customer." I'm like, hold right there. I'm not here to be a customer, I'm here to teach. And I did actually get a position there, and I taught at that place. I taught diving for many years until the place closed down, basically. And a lot of the instructors they're all part-timers and engineers by coincidence. And they gave me some advice, and they said, look, you only have 3 companies in the whole of Singapore recruiting. Apply. You don't get a job, you might as well pack your suitcases and go back to Mauritius and enjoy the beach life. And I did. That was on a Wednesday. I applied on a Friday, and on Monday I started work. So that was a pretty good step to take. And
so where was that break? Where was that break in that big company? Where was the break in that big company?
So that was at Meinhardt, actually, Meinhardt Group. I was a young engineer, obviously, just fresh grad, just fresh out of school, no work experience. They took a chance on me, and I was very grateful that they did. I'm still grateful that they did. I started as a structural engineer, actually, and to be honest, after a very short while, I started to find it quite boring, actually. And I thought there must be more to this.
Say that. You can't say that.
There must be something else, because I don't see myself going on for the next 40 years doing this. And so I very quickly transferred to the Façade team, the very young, budding Façade team at the time. Basically just 2 people, really. So it was a very, very small team. And that I loved a lot, because I'd learned so much in university, learned so much that I could not apply in structural engineering, on thermodynamics, on materials, on, optics, on mechanical engineering, manufacturing, on so many different aspects, which suddenly opened up once I transferred to the Façade world, because all of this ties into the facades of buildings. And I really fell in love with Façades right there, and 20 years later, I'm still in love.
But tell me and tell everybody, which I want everyone to know, that you joined as a very, very young engineer, only doing structural engineering, and then you moved into the fascinated, or rather the world of fascination, the world of complexity, the world of design, the world that keeps you ticking if you understand facades and bolted glazing, and you understand everything. And
yes,
you must be, from what I know of you, you're a great reader, and you're a very small, light sleeper. We'll come to that habit a little later. That's the secret of every facade man. We hardly sleep, either out of stress or either because we read. Simple.
Yes.
Few of them must be sleeping like me 8 hours a day, who doesn't worry, because it's a different story with us. We come back to you. There must be somebody who must have sat and understood your passion, your dedication, your love for the work. Did you have a mentor who taught you all this, or where you became a mentee with somebody?
Yes, in fact, when I first started in the facade world, I had a mentor, someone called Mark Danatel. He was running the Façade team for Meinhardt at the time, and he was a fantastic mentor, because he was extremely patient, extremely dedicated, and I really learned a lot from him in a very short time. He was an architect by training, and it was interesting as an engineer to work under an architect, under the guidance of an architect. And but he was much more than that, to be honest. He would be able to take calculations, structural calculations or thermodynamic calculations on facades, and basically mark them up and correct the engineer, saying, sorry, look, this bolt is probably too small, that beam looks over designed, why don't you check it? And I'm sure this will resonate a chord with you, Navin, right?
Absolutely.
I'm sure you find yourself in a similar position to him.
Absolutely. Identical. I'm not an engineer. I sit and talk to engineers. We have 37 engineers, but we still work. And still the joke is, when they come back and they say, this won't work, I look at a drawing and I say, this will work. Or they say, I say, this will work, and they say, this won't work. When they do the CALs, it works. So I think, it's Façades is all about learning quickly, learning in a cocky way, but being very, very observant, having a lot of experience, and having the inner knowledge to learn a lot. Having said that, how did you reach at such a young age, before we move further, in becoming the managing director of Meinhardt Façade Technology? You built it, you have it in you, you opened offices, and from what I remember, in Bangkok, you opened them in all over the world. You went to the Middle East, if I remember. You went to the Vietnam, in bracket with another good Indian facade consultant friend called Mahesh, who refers to you as his mentor, close bracket. And, these stories which go about you. No, let me finish. What I'm saying, let me finish means you opened India office. You came to India. You studied the Indian market. You opened the minor facade technology office as an entrepreneur. You went to Bangkok. You got the office set up. You went to the Middle East. You went to Kuala Lumpur. You went to London. One man. And you were as young as 28 years when you became the first director of Meinhardt. What an inspiring life story that hasn't even started for a young man like you. How can you explain all that at such a young age? And not even being related to the owners of Meinhardt?
Of course. No, of course not. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know. My father is from a very modest background. And he taught me very young, to fight for myself, the value of hard work, the value of being passionate about what you do and giving yourself 200%. And I think this has a lot to do with, how things develop for me, because, when I started, I was really barely making ends meet. Singapore is a fantastic place. I love Singapore. I love living here. But it's also an expensive city to live in, especially when you're starting in life. And I didn't have, my parents' house in, where I could go back to sleep at night. I had to pay my own rent. I had to pay my own food. I had to pay my own transport. And I was lucky if I had $50 left at the end of the month on my account, right? And that was what was a day as a facade consultant, and then working night shift as a dive instructor, Monday in the pool or in the class, Tuesday in the pool, Wednesday in class, Thursday in pool, and then every weekend, Friday night to Sunday night, going diving in Malaysia, teaching people how to dive. So running,
fantastic,
making ends meet. And it's an experience that's invaluable. It was tough, very, very tough, but it was fun. It's no point doing it if you're not having fun, right? And I love my 12 hours a day doing facades, and I love my late nights going back to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning after teaching people in the pool for hours. It was fantastic. I would trade that off for nothing. It was great, really, really good. And I think this dedication, this passion, the hard work, it has to pay off sooner or later. And as you say, at 28 years old, I was made director of the group. I was one of the youngest, if not the youngest at the time. I think that's also a humbling experience. It's not, you don't stop and gloat and you go, yes, that's it. I'm 28, I'm director, I've made it. No, it's actually the other way around. It's scary. I'm 28, I'm director. What do I do now?
So I remember, I'm going to tell you something else. You're so inspiring in what you talk that I have another facade consultant in India. I don't know whether you know him, or whether you know of him, but he's also ex-Meinhardt. And his name is Gautam Basin. All right. Gautam runs in Abbott, and he keeps saying that, if anybody is the most successful facade international global consultant, it's Matheiu. So you have a lot of admirers all around the world, and we're not here about business. We're talking about stories. And you developed MFT globally. You were the face. How difficult was it for you to part with them? A little serious question, but I think it's very important.
It's a good question. It was probably one of the hardest thing for me to do. I'd been in the company for almost 20 years. I was MD from 2010, 2011 until 2016. So, I grew that company from 60, 80 people to almost 200, opened offices, like you said, in London, in KL, Bangkok. And, I was traveling all the time. I was always on a plane, always going from one office to the next, to the next, to the next, giving back, mentoring back people, the younger generation. Although I was, some of them were older than me or not much younger. But, you know, the newcomers to the facade industry, those that had, you know, jumped ship, so to speak, from another industry. And I was doing running around all the time. So I knew everyone, every single person in the group. I knew them. And when I had to say goodbye, you know, it was terrible. It was crushing. But it was something I had to do. You know, I'd done so much for so many years for everyone else. I finally felt it was time to do something for myself. One tiny selfish act, finally.
So finally, it was entrepreneurship over emotions.
Yeah, you know, it was entrepreneurship plus also, I think, a desire to go back to my roots. You know, to putting the hands in the grease. You know, to the nuts and bolts, literally, of facades. Doing, you know, going to factories, getting sweaty, dirty, going to sites, you know, sitting in very tense design meetings, stuck between a client, a quantity surveyor, an architect, a structural engineer, a mechanical engineer, everyone wanting something different. And I was missing that because I was just doing management. And I wasn't really doing enough of the technical work. And so that was maybe beyond the pure entrepreneurship side of things. This was something I missed and I wanted to go back to.
Well, you're so true in what you say. You know, I've always believed, and I believe this because I'm sharing it with you and sharing it with all the viewers, that drawings don't make a curtain wall. I could give a full set of 250 drawings, then give the MTO, then give the PWOs, then give all the fabrication drawings to somebody and say, go make the best curtain wall with 1100 tons of metal and glass sizes. It would still not happen. I believe it happens in a totally different way when you struggle, when you understand. And a fabricator contributes infrastructure. That's all. Then he contributes know-how to his knowledge that he has with his team. They're an experience. And based on his infrastructure, his experience, and his knowledge, he tenders for a project which is very complex. Complex in terms of a facade consultant's design. To create a form, okay, and to apply a design technology, right?
Absolutely.
Then it comes to the consultant, okay? This is my question to you. My question to you now comes, how does DP Façade differ itself from others? It's a tough market out there. I mean, without even taking names of consultants, you'll be surprised. In India, we have 27 facade consultants on my list. And I'm told there are a couple of more. So you're sitting somewhere globally all around, sitting in the head of Singapore. You have projects in India which are very, very big. I'm not talking about the rest of the world. And how do you differentiate over the others?
You know, when I started DP Façade, you know, in the process of creating DP Façade, I didn't want to do what everyone else was doing. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something better. I wanted to do, to offer more, you know. I think we have come to a stage in a lot of countries, a lot of markets where facade consultancy has almost become a commodity, you know. You know, you need 100,000.
Oh, sorry. It's not a commodity. It's by people who love the subject. Let me tell you, I'm sorry.
I know, but
it's not a commodity. It's a professional excellence.
So, you know, it's quite unfortunate, but it is true. Some clients tend to think like that. You know, it's like, okay, company X is, you know, more expensive than company Y, and I'll just go with Y because anyway they're cheaper and they all do the same thing. That's not my business plan. That's not how I want to do things. That's not how I want to operate. And so I really question myself, you know, what is the essence of facades? What is the essence of facade consultancy, facade engineering, facade design? As you say, there's really so many different actors, so many different steps to getting things right. And it doesn't stop when we call tender and the fabricator comes on board. The partnership just starts at that time. And so I try to look at each of the stages of the project, from concept, to tender documentation, to tender, to construction, fabrication, etc. You know, installation, and what we could do better, what we could offer clients that would bring value. That means it's not just a gimmick. It's not just, okay, oh, I can do this and the other ones cannot do that. No, it's bringing value. And this has actually been a very interesting introspection. It's allowed us to develop a set of skills and a set of tools that I think are pretty unique. And same time, you know, it's all about the people, and I'm sure you will agree with this. So I just wanted the best people possible in the industry, and so I was extremely careful with the interview process. You know, people come with a CV. You know, I'm design manager of such and such. No. Take a piece of paper or an iPad or whatever it is. Take a pencil or a stylus. Draw me this. Draw me that. Calculate me this. Show me. Not from a library, not something you tweak, you know, show me that you really understand what we're talking about. And the personality is also absolutely essential. You know, it needs to click for the team to work as one, you know, so you don't have silos or people, you know, alienated from others. And so that clients and architects and consultants and contractors all relate and all appreciate what we're bringing to the project.
You know, but from where you said and what you started to where you ended, the fact is you never answered one very important critical question within the question, and that is, what is the secret formula of the creation of DP? Okay, let me go slowly. The creation of DP Façade and the magic of Matheiu. Everybody forms a facade consultancy. You know,
okay.
We do that. Don't get me wrong. It's my turn now. Let me talk, sir. With due respect to you. Everybody says the same thing. Everybody makes proposals. It's like saying we fabricators say the same thing when we go out to tender. But there is that sub formula which is called the Coke formula, which gets you a job, where people come to you. What's that Coke formula about you?
Okay,
about
I
you
think
and DP.
Next to it, I think the first part, and this is quite interesting. When I wanted to start this company, I really had a long period of reflection as to what would be the best format, the best context for it. Should I be in a different different environment, different country, different company? Should I start my own? Should I, you know, join a group? You know, should I just, you know, I mean, it's not to gloat or anything, but I had offers left, right, center. People, when they started knowing I was going, you know, people were offering me jobs. It would have been easy. It would have been easy, but that wasn't the way. I knew that if I joined a group where there was an existing structure, an existing infrastructure to the facade team, it's very hard to break the mold. You know, it's very hard to break habits. It's very hard to change things. But if you start from scratch, that's different because you can set things right from the beginning. And you know what you mentioned about the very kind comments from maybe fellow consultants and contractors. I think this comes from having been the boss of a company at a very young age. You know, this grows humility in you. It's basically either you remain humble and you succeed, or you don't, or you don't. You know, I think it's as that. And for me, I've always thought like you, actually, like what you said, that it's a teamwork. It's not just, you know, I'm the big consultant, I know better than you, and you are the facade vendor or the supplier or the installer, and you listen to me. No, that's never been my attitude. I've always learned from others because. As you said, there's very little formal education that's possible in facades. You know, sure, there was that master's degree in Bath, but that stopped, I don't know, 4 years ago now. There was one in Hong Kong, but it's always been hiccupy, you know, starting, stopping. Great contents, but I think not enough to sustain. There is one in TU Delft, if I'm not wrong.
Correct.
But you know, it's very, very scattered. And the only way you're going to learn is learning from the industry, from a mentor, from suppliers, listen to what they have to say, from installers. You understand if you do things like that, or if you design like that, I cannot install my my panel, or I cannot install my curtain wall. Or if you draw something like this, it cannot be fabricated. So you have to listen and work as a team. And you know, where I think this was very interesting context in Singapore, and maybe to some extent in India, there tends to be a very top-down
Structure.
Structure, you know, where client is at the top, then you have the architect, then you have other consultants, then main contractor, then facade contractor, then suppliers, you know, and it's very stratified, and everybody pushes the next one, the next one down, right?
Correct.
And I started doing projects in Middle East very early on, around 2004. So that's, you know, again, almost 20 years ago. And it's not like that at all. You would think that in the Middle East, they would be very directive and very pushy. But actually, I discovered, to my surprise, that no, it's very collaborative. And if for example, the main contractor tells the structural engineer in front of the client that he's wrong, the client will listen. He will not defend the consultant if the consultant is wrong and the other guy has proven it. And I think this is how it should really be everywhere, you know, on all projects. It's all the parties, each one contributing to make it happen.
This is where you come from, or where I come from now. It's exactly where everybody contributes and everybody comes together. And
Right.
we create this fantastic sense of belonging, this sense of ownership. That's the architect, the owner, the structural engineer, the facade consultant, the fabricator, and I think most important, the project manager, who I call the god of the site. Even if he's an owner, he's a project manager, because without him, he's nobody. Actually, he should be getting paid more than the managing director of the company, because he's the one bringing money on the project. And I think all the project managers who are hearing this should come back to me, and I'll give them a letter of recommendation for their owners, because without them, there's no company.
Of course.
There are a lot of design challenges which we see as fabricators, and design challenges which we see in terms of the owner's mind, which is different.
Right.
And I've noticed that facade consultants have a lot of creative instincts within them. And they like to bring their pen to paper. And they want to boost the quality of the deliverable. Okay? How do you manage that?
Well, you know, it's interesting. Having worked first in a structural engineering company or a, you know, general engineering company for many years, and now living within a group. You see, I use the word living. You know, I think that's a telling word, right? I live and work within an architectural group. It's very interesting. It's almost liberating in a way. You know, it frees the creativity in you. It's something that you know has been there pent up for a long time, but you know, when you tend as an engineer to be difficult. You know, it tends to be difficult when you want to sort of do something different. No, you're an engineer, just do what I say, right? But now being an architectural group is the other way around. Say, oh, what do you think? Should I put the transom here? Or should it be like that? What about the material, the finish, the color? You know, it's opened up a whole new set of items and that I can contribute to it. And it's not just when it's DP Architect who's the architect for the project. You know, we have a few projects where it's other companies. In fact, 70% of our projects are with other architectural companies. But on those projects, sometimes the architect will come to us and say, look, I really don't have a feeling for this facade. What do you reckon? I said, you know, how about like that? And you put this and you put that there. And they go like, that's it. That's exactly what I had in mind. I said, see, I knew you knew it.
Sure. You know, having said that from where you came, and you also said about 70% of the business of DP Facade comes from other architects.
That's
DP
right.
Facade started only less than 4 years ago.
Yes.
In 2006, 15 or 16, if I'm right. Or 15
16,
or 16. 16. Okay, my memory is not that bad. I'm not yet getting that old, even though I've colored my hair all black. It's another story. But, you know, this success reputation that you've created with DP Facade, how difficult is it for you to win work from other architectural firms with them knowing the same statement that you made, that DP Facade is a part of DP Architects and is a competitor to them?
You know, I think in this industry, a lot has to do with people and with relationships and with personalities. And you know, when I first started, this was certainly one of my concerns. You know, am I going to do just projects with DP architects? Not that that would be a bad thing. They are fantastic projects. I enjoy every single one of them. But you know, it's good to mix with other people as well. And surely old friends, developers I've worked with, architects I've worked with before have come to me and said, look, I'd like to work with you again. Is that a problem? It's like, why would that be a problem? I'm still the same me. You know. You know, but it was almost like, but won't they mind if you work for someone else? No, of course they won't mind, you know. And the other concern was that, what about you know, my IP, my documentation, the stuff I produce, will not that lead to DP architects? And I said, friend, you know, if you don't trust me to keep your information secret and confidential, you know, we have no business working together. You know, you
True.
might as well be someone else.
True.
Because trust is everything.
Trust
And
is everything.
you know, the other aspect is when we talked about creativity, you know, and architecture is all about that. I mean, sure, you have codes and regulations and things you need to apply, but ultimately you need the creative mind, you know, you need that vision. And that's not something I can steal from anyone. You know, that's in your head, you know, so I can't take it. And you know, it's working really, really well. We're working right now on something like 100 projects in 5 continents. I almost said 6, but nothing in.
I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that because I googled a lot about you today, and where you're talking of so many projects, you're one of the most successful facade consultants, to put it. I wouldn't say the others are not successful, but as an independent one-man show with only 30% from DP. And rest of 70% from other architectural firms. I also am given to understand, I don't know how far.
I'm not one-man show. I've got a fantastic team. Fantastic team backing me. I will not take anything away from them. They are.
What I'm saying is, don't get me wrong, but facades are run by one man. At the end of the day, from the top man down, you move him and the company collapses. You move him, the organization collapses. Teams are important. I don't want to take names, but teams are important. But teams are part of teams. Let's go reverse. So then you always need, you know, like I always say, the speed of the engine, right? The speed of the speed of the train is the speed of the engine.
That's right.
It's
that's
very clear.
Good.
It's very clear. It's very clear. And that's how. And then of course there is luck. There's ammunition, there's petrol, there's gasoline, there's diesel, there's coal to run it. You don't have it all. You can have the best aircraft and then you still can't take it off. So we've got very little time, but we want some more time to talk to you. Having been so successful, I want to ask you a controversial question, which I hope you don't mind. But there's a saying that, you know, when you left MFT and when you moved out as the managing director of a very big global firm, and you create this new organization 4 years ago. That's why I didn't know 4 or 5 years ago. And today you have 100 plus projects. You did not accept a single client of MFT who came to you. And there were a list of clients who wanted to move to you, wanting to be part of now the DP Façade group. That's what I meant by the one-man show. Don't misunderstand me. But they wanted to come to work. They wanted their projects to be worked on by Matheiu Meur. How did you manage to have that distinctive, honest, transparent, down the line, sincere effort in telling them this much and no more? I can't take you for the project because you're part of MFT. I think hats off to you, sir, on what you did. And that is creditable and recognizable on a public platform. There's too much temptation to jump into something else.
As I said, I have a lot to be thankful for my years at MFT. You know, they were fantastic years. You know, I was very well supported. I had great people I was working with. And, you know, the last thing I I had on my mind when I left was to sing the company. That's got, that's really the furthest from my mind. And when the word started spreading, I still recall actually, it was the Zach World of Façade in 2016. That's when I finally let out the word that I was leaving. And it spread like wildfire because anyone in Façades is connected to Zach one way or another. And
No, I'm going to interrupt. They are the sponsors, but everybody in the world is today connected together only because of the Zach world. Because of the Zach world of Façade. Because of Zakir Bhai, who's like a godfather who's brought aluminum and glass together. Because of I don't know who's the catalyst. I don't know who's the accelerator. But I sure know that we guys are all right like silicon. The market doesn't work without them. And they have another friend called Amit Malhotra who's brought McCoy. So they're doing the magic together.
Sure.
And this is where I'm coming to you from, that what you say is so true. And when you came to Singapore and when you were moving out, I still know, and I still must be wondering, and not that I can't say it, but Bruce Simons must be a sad man when you left.
Well, he'd already left a few years before that. I'd taken his place basically when he left.
I know that. But he must be still sad that he gave it in very capable hands. And you moved out.
I think so. Look, I mean, I'm not here to badmouth anyone. It's
okay. We leave your past where it is, and we talk about the projects that you have. We leave your past. We talk about all the great work you're doing. I'm going to show you a few of your projects and to everybody around, and let them know from where we are coming.
Sure.
I start with a very simple project, and you can tell us about this project.
All right. So
this is your commerce project, if I'm right.
So this is Manhattan Loft Gardens.
This is the one. This is the Manhattan Loft. Please go.
Garden. So it was a very interesting project. It was one of the first projects that our London office, I started it in 2013, and I think we garnered that project maybe a year later or a few months later. And you can see from the image that it's pretty complex. You have deep notches through the building, so a very large movement, very large amplitudes of movements, and we had to do a very, very careful analysis of the interstory movement to make sure that no panel would interlock and break. And what is harder to see is the sort of zigzag shape on the right-hand side. Very complex facade. Very interesting project, working with Bouygues. Bouygues UK was the main contractor and was our paymaster on that job. It was a really fantastic experience. And SOM as the architect, of course.
That's why I say complexity is your middle name. I'm going to show the Via Bria Center in Qatar. Can you throw some light on this? It's a big project.
Interesting. You're actually hiding half of it with your...
Yeah, I can't help it. I always get in between everywhere with everybody,
This was... You mentioned Mahesh before, and Mahesh and I worked very closely on this project. It was 27, 26-story towers. Imagine the size of this. That's 600 plus stories to build up. And we started this in 2006, and very, very interesting. Each of the tower was slightly different with precast concrete facade. Precast concrete, GRC, curtain wall. It had a mix of everything. It was very, very interesting, very intense project to be involved in. And of course, the Middle East environment. This is in Doha. Very, very nice project. Very nice project.
I'm going to show you something interesting.
Oh, okay. So this, I think, was my second or third project in Dubai, around 2006, 5, 6, maybe something like that. This is Dubai Marina Mall and the Address Hotel, which is what's on the left. Again, quite an interesting project, very fast track. Emar was the developer and DPA was the architect. There's a lot of complexity that you cannot see at that scale. You have to zoom in and look at the details and the refinements. There's a gigantic circular skylight on top of the mall. Very nice, finely chiseled GRC, precast, all sorts of things. It was a great project, very fast track. Emma was really, really pushing everyone on this project. I
I
really
will show
loved
you
it.
something more interesting.
Ooh, okay. So this one should be closer to some of the
Yes,
here, and this is one of the projects you mentioned. So
absolutely.
Grand Hyatt Gurgaon, which is 7 towers, all high rise, 40 odd stories, let's say
All in
42.
India. All in India. One of your first projects in India.
So this was a project designed by Foster and Partners. There's 1 hotel, 1 office, and 5 residential towers, plus a huge connecting podium of retail. And Foster and Partners are very, very interesting architects to work with. They push the envelope. Sorry for the pun, but they really push the envelope on every aspect. I recall one of the first meetings with the designer, a guy called Colin Foster, but not related to Norman Foster. He asked me this question: how big are the containers that will be shipping in the panels to Delhi? And I was like, wow, this is the first time an architect asked me the size of the container. I like it.
That's the way it works.
We're gonna be
You
friends.
like it when you have a good client. Find something more interesting. Throw some light on this. It's very complex.
Yes. So very, very interesting project. Woha, Singapore architectural firm, iconic architects, designed this Park Royal on Pickering, which is bringing the concept of a garden. You can see this lush lawn in front of the building. It's kind of bringing the idea of a sky garden. So every one of those sort of curved shapes between the towers is actually a sort of massive planter with trees and bushes, and it's clad with GRC, which contrasts, but somehow clicks, it just works with the glass curtain wall. So you have the kind of rusticity of the GRC and the modernity of the glass. Fantastic. I love this project. It was tough.
Well, the next one I put up is more complex as far as I'm concerned. And
right.
This, I don't know how you achieved this at the Orchard Gateway, so you got to tell us that.
Okay, Orchard Gateway. So this was right smack in the middle of Orchard Road, which is the central avenue of Singapore. Very, very busy street. And we had to contend with existing developments bordering our site on 3 sides. A conservation building, an old building, 100-year-old building, adjacent to it, literally butted against it. And we had to bring these very sculptural towers, 1 hotel, 1 office, and hotel, and there's a shopping mall, and also build the one and only bridge. And this is a glass bridge, completely glazed bridge, all the way through, over 30 meters long, across Orchard Road, without stopping the traffic. So this was quite a you can't stop Orchard Road.
Going to be, Unfortunately, yes. You skip out the top, but this is your sculpture Ardmore, if I remember.
Yes, sculpture Ardmore, very interesting. This was a collaboration between Carlos Zapata Architects in New York and DP Architects, developed by SC Global in Singapore. Very, very premium, super high-end residential development. The curtain wall is curved and varies in geometry everywhere. On top of that, you've got to deal with those cantilevered swimming pools, and the facade continues across the swimming pool. On the other side, we don't really see it there. So each of the premium duplex apartments has its own swimming pool cantilevering out. We did a 25-meter cantilevered entrance canopy, no columns, no tiebacks, pure cantilever, 25 meters. We had to literally make holes in the lift shafts to create backspans for that. I mean, that was, it started as that's not possible, and I went like, hold on, how about we try that? And they were like, yeah, okay, that should work. So this was great, and it had pivoting and sliding screen in front of the curtain wall for the privacy of the balconies. So really bringing a lot of complexity on this project.
I'm going to just show one more project because that's from India. And then I'm going to show you something interesting. We have very little time. We've got to talk about these 2 projects.
Oh, okay. So this one is one of my pet projects. It's a Worli 360. It's right by the sea. Fantastic location in Mumbai. Where the bridge connects, the new bridge connects to Worli. It's right at the end of that bridge. So anyone anyone passing the bridge, and you know, we'll see it right there. It started as 8 stories. I think we had a bit of issues with the planning authorities, so it shrank a little bit, maybe 86 stories or 82 stories at the end. But again, trying to push the limit. KPF was the architect, and we have one residential tower and one residential and hotel tower, and this facade has you know, randomly placed external fins. It has huge curtain wall panels. They are 6 meters wide.
I see them going up when I pass that, and when I see the fabricator installing them, I have a sense of jealousy, a sense of envy. And I say, why am I not there? But it's part of life. You win some, you lose some. You've done a great job there, great job, Matheiu. You've done a great job. I think the engineering has been too detailed for anyone not to admire. And if we go further, I want to share with everybody a few of your pictures on your private passion, which is scuba diving. And you know, these are the kind of pictures which we got. And if one looks at them, you really see in a different world. And it's deep down there. This would be how deep? How deep would this be?
This would have been around 20 meters deep. This was in Indonesia. Very, very nice. This is in Komodo, actually. Komodo Island, you know, the land of dragons. Raging current. I was strapped to a cord and a harness. This was a photo of me and sardines here. It's one of my favorite photos. Very peaceful turtles. You know, this is how the sea should be. This is how it should be enjoyed. This is how everybody should see the sea. You know, this is okay. I don't know if you've got that one. That's 50 meters deep. Now we're talking.
50 meters deep. Eh?
That's quite a few stories down. You know. And a baby turtle, you know, it's very, very nice.
The irony is that when I Googled for you, I could get more pictures on your swimming escapades than on curtain walling. Yeah. Having said that, I think I've got just about 5 minutes, and I want to ask you a few questions which we call a rapid fire question. There is no rapid fire because there's no right or wrong. It's your love and your passion for life. Scuba diving or being a facade man?
I'm fortunate to be enjoying both to the max. So no, I'm gonna take a joker on this one. I've been extremely fortunate to be able to enjoy both of my passions 100%.
That's being diplomatic. Scuba diving or being a facade man?
You're a tough man. You're a tough man.
Okay, next bird.
I think I'd still go for facade then.
Now you're talking. Now you're talking.
Feeds me. Okay. What can I say?
Okay. I cannot ask you your most favorite building because you've done so many of them. Your most favorite diving spot in the world?
Look, I would probably say Costa Rica. You know, I went down 300 meters in a submarine. I dove with hammerhead sharks. The nature is completely untouched. It's unbelievable there. I would probably say Costa Rica.
Your most challenging architectural firm that you worked with as a facade?
Ooh. Okay, I'm not allowed to say DP Architects, right?
Oh, you're not supposed to say that. I mean, you worked with Foster, you worked with so many, you worked with Meur, you worked with PCF, you worked with so many of them, yeah. SOM. I didn't say difficult.
I don't know, you know, I would say maybe Foster and Partners, maybe if I were to pick one. I think they push every millimeter, you know, they're extremely demanding.
You use the word, they're demanding. They want it exactly the way they've drawn.
Exactly, but there's always a reason, you know, and they will explain to you, no, this is, you know, if that millimeter is there, there's a reason. And you go.
The meeting is 7 minutes. This is what they want. That's it.
Sure.
Okay, next question. Tell me, to the rest of the world, are you the Matheiu? What do you prefer? Matheiu of the MFT worldwide or Matheiu of DP Façade?
Well, I'd rather be me, and for
Done, done.
at
Okay, you
the
rather be
moment,
Matthew Meur.
at
Okay?
the moment, it's DP Façade, and it's probably going to be DP Façade for a very, very long time. I'm
Okay.
really enjoying what I'm doing right now.
Would you rather be the MD of DP Façade for the next 10 years, or would you also now considering versus being a mentor to somebody the way somebody mentored you and give back in life?
You know, I believe in mentorship. I believe in continuous training, and I just like I myself, I'm never satisfied. You know, I never think that okay, that's it. I know everything. I don't need to learn anything. I
Right.
teach myself, learn from others, and I like to give back. So one of the things that I value a lot since I've joined DPF, since I've started DPF, is basically the ability to take that time. You know, before, no, sorry, too busy. I don't have time. I'll just do this. That's it. I don't explain why. Now I can take the time. Come, sit down, take a piece of paper, take your whatever. I'll show you. I'll explain to you why it's like this, not like that. What are the options? How you pick one option over another one. That's something I really treasure now.
Okay. Last rapid fire question has to be yes or no. No
Sorry.
explanation. Okay. This is the last rapid fire question.
Sure.
It's not about wife. It is not about children. It's not about business. It's not about. It's only about facades. Quick question. A European female unitized system with a rubber gasket, or an Australian American male female unitized system?
The second, Australian, anytime.
We think alike. I thought I'm going to make you mentor, but I'm going to continue now on my last passion with you. You're a very passionate man. And I don't know whether the viewers know this, but we both have a lot of passion in common besides facades. And our second passion is cigar smoking. You are a cigar lover, okay? And those who don't understand this, life is too short to smoke bad cigars, okay?
I agree.
Too short to smoke bad cigars. So what's your favorite cigar? So I can tell everybody who wants to come to you for a business opportunity to come with a box of cigars. I've been marketing for you, my friend.
Okay, I've been very fortunate to go twice to Cuba, and I love Cuban cigars. But right now,
I don't like you anymore.
But no, I'm saying, but right now, my favorite brand is My Father.
Okay,
Nicaragua cigar rolled in Miami, and the story behind the My Father brand is fantastic. You know.
So it's no more Coiba, and it's no more Davidoff, and it's no more RP.
I've got my humidor right here, and it's got Cohiba, it's got Monte Cristo, it's got all that, no problem.
Well, as long as it's got Coiba number 6, you're a good man. Okay, now let's get back to the end of it. From where I'm coming and what I'm talking to you and what I'm sharing with you is, before we come to the end of the show, you know, facade consultancy is a balancing act, and it is a balancing act between technique, shape, form, material, efficiency, technology, and light. Okay? You can ask me this in the middle of the night. I'll get up from my sleep and repeat it. This is what I feel about consultancy. And there are tall, sprawling structures, which are urban symbols, which is what you just shown us. Right. And these sculptures, when together, are nothing but vertical planes and horizontal planes, which are chasing each other. Okay? This is where I'm coming from.
Okay.
You yourself, I'm talking about you. You are the future of facades. You talk to me and you talk to others about robotic construction. You talk of 3D printing, future as in times of building construction. Technology is the main driver from where we're talking about facades of architecture. And now I know for a fact that you're working on a building with a builder where the building has a printed facade. Okay.
Right.
And based on that, there's a fact where there's a network of energy points that catch the sunlight and that will generate energy and information. Having said that, you achieved so much in the old future, in the old past, and in the coming future. We, I think, as Zach Group of Facades or Zach World of Facades with these sponsors, are thankful to you for spending so much of time with us. And you have spent so much of time, it's unbelievable. So thank you very much for being part of us. And, you know, being so nice with us. And this is the way.